Hello, my name's Jeremiah Karpowitz. I am the editorial director at Commercial UAV News, and we're doing some video interviews as everybody's at home and giving some folks a different perspective on the news that's happening in the drone space. And to kick that off, I'm with Amit Ganju from Anra Technologies. Amit, how are things?
Not bad, Jeremiah. Good talking to you. It's different seeing you via video call versus in person. But no, things are going well. We're getting used to the new world, and so far, team seems to be adapting fairly well.
And what about with some of the conversations that you're having with customers and potential customers? I mean, is it almost a pre-COVID post conversation you're having with some of those folks?
No, actually, things have changed. Like because the timelines, the specifically the implementation timelines have slipped, right? Because you can do a lot of the initial work and stuff, but if you actually if there are not a lot of drones flying out there, you then don't really need to deploy. There's no urgency to deploy a lot of things. So things are, but it has like two sides of the coin. Like one is it's giving everyone a breather to focus on things, get things ready. But on the flip side, things that were a lot of places were looking to deploy earlier in this year. Now those timelines have kind of slipped to the right.
And speaking of something that was obviously in the works before before everything changed, I mean that was Smart Skies. And you can talk a little bit about the release just went out today. Talk a little bit about the creation of Smart Skies and whether you saw that was that more about an opportunity with the technology or feedback that you'd gotten from your customers or maybe something else that drove that.
That's a great question. So actually, as you know, we've been in the UTM space since 2015. So we've been in there when the UTM word was coined. So we build the system for ground up for airspace management, controlled, uncontrolled airspace and stuff. But as you know, the regulatory framework has been lacking, and different parts of the world are at different level. Like US is one level, UK is at another level, European countries are at a different level, Asia at a different level. Uh, so what's happening is we have this comprehensive capability. So this we call that the whole Smart Skies family. But if you look at the new regulatory framework and stuff like that, the immediate need is like, how do you ensure safety of airspace in and around controlled airspaces, airports, and other sensitive areas? So what this system was done is we took a part of our functionality and tailored it specifically to what meets the immediate need of managing and allowing drone operations in controlled airspace and sensitive airspaces in line with even like different parts of the world have that requirement, but in Europe, they have the European regulation that just goes into effect July 1st that wants you to allow drone traffic in controlled airspaces. So this was taking part of our functionality, packaging it specifically to address that specific need and tailor it based on the feedback we had gotten from the customer. Some feature sets that they needed, some were nice to have, some they didn't want the complexity. So a lot of work went back and forth, looking at the feature sets, what was needed, and tailoring it to create this specific tailored capability. It's still part of the overall framework and modular like all our capabilities. So as they move forward, as the industry evolves, you can plug in more capability. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I mean, speaking of kind of plugging in like that, I mean, how does that work with Lance, or what does how does Lance play into what you've set up with Smart Skies?
Okay, so Lance is a good example. So Lance allows low space airspace authorization in controlled zones. And if you look at US, US is one of the few places in the world where the regulator and the ANSP is the same. It's FAA, right? It's not the same in other parts of the world. You have, in some places, you have multiple ANSPs. In some places, it's privatized versus public. In US, so to answer your question succinctly, uh, Smart Skies is a superset of Lance. It's not a subset. So it includes Lance-like capability, like in US, FAA provides the core backend stuff that manages all the Lance and integration into ATC, whereas the US service suppliers just have the client aspect, the mobile apps or the web interfaces where the end user, the RPIC, goes in and requests approvals. Smart Skies is a package, a complete package, which any ANSP in the world can go and take, or any person, a stakeholder who's managing a sensitive workspace can deploy the whole thing instead of them having to build anything. It's the back end, front end, all the client, the whole platform with additional add-on capabilities. It's a lot, like I said, it's a superset. So it has a lot more advanced capabilities, not just pure authorization and submission capability.
Yeah,
So
almost Lance Plus, it sounds like.
yeah, you said it. I didn't say it.
Well, cool. You touched a little bit about remote ID, and that's something you've obviously been very involved with and written and talked a lot about. You talk about how Smart Skies and what role Smart Skies is going to have to play in the future of remote ID, which is also unfolding before our eyes.
No, great question. So, as you know, we've been doing this remote ID stuff early on in 2019 with the proposed, at that time, the proposed draft regulation standards, and now release standards from ASTM for remote identification. We did that in New York, then we followed up by doing it in California and in Switzerland. So that capability, the remote ID service provider, and display client, which is in line with the standards, the different components of the architecture, they're already part of our Smart Skies family. So as the Smart Skies gets deployed, so it not just does these authorization, it offers remote identification capabilities in controlled airspace, but if people wanted to use it outside of the controlled airspace and uncontrolled airspaces, it would work there as well. It's just a plug-in module based on our capability that already exists.
Excellent. So what type of operator or organization do you think is going to get the most out of Smart Skies, maybe in, right now and then leading to the future of their business?
So in the near term, it's geared towards, like I said, stakeholders like ANSPs, air navigation service providers, and stakeholders that are managing otherwise sensitive airspace to allow whether it's automated approvals or approvals that follow different rule sets, and automatically our system is configurable. You can configure rule sets there, which automatically, and they change from region to region, country to country. They may have different policies and rules. So they can configure that and start allowing for these operations and then managing them, having that situational awareness available to ATC users. That's in the near term. And as we move beyond the near term, long term, the additional capability that we have in the Smart Skies family will allow what in US we call USS, multiple federated USSs, or in Europe it's called USSPs. So they could license this and take the other additional capability like tracking, conformance monitoring, and other capabilities that are required to operate a use-based service provider or a USS.
Yeah, last question then, those users that you just talked about, if there's one thing that you want them to know about Smart Skies, what would that be?
It's ready to go now. You don't have to wait. It's ready. You can go and launch instead of waiting and building it.
Perfect. Okay. And where's the best place for people to go to find out more about is that just on your website or kind of follow up and?
Yeah, the website would be the best place to reach us at flyanra, flyanra.com.
Perfect. Thank you for joining us, Amit. We will talk to you soon.
Thank you, Jeremiah. Good talking to you.